Hello, hello, people. This is Elena Bartash, your real estate investor. Today, my podcast, as usual, about lending, private money lending, hard money lending in real estate investment world. So, every real estate investor needs just two things. We need deal and we need money. So, we want to find deals. But the money issue is always important, always important for all of us. We need to find money. We need to find people who knows who has money. We want brokers, we want lenders, so we want to be in relationship with them. So today, my guest is a very interesting person. His name is Lee Nugent. He has experience more than 10 years in real estate, and he came through all the way in investment. He knows how to do wholesaling. He knows how to buy properties. He knows how to run short-term and other different exit strategy, rental properties. And he knows how to do private money lending, and he is very proficient in hard money lending. So meet Lee. Hi,
Hello,
Lee.
Elena. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for accepting my invitation. How are you today? How is your day?
It's been fantastic. I love being self-employed because Tuesday can sometimes just be a Saturday.
Mm, okay. Interesting theory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes you
You,
you have to work through the weekends, but also you can take those times during the week when everybody else has to work, and you can go and have a massage. You can go to the spa. You can go get pedicures, or you can just go and relax at the beach. So I enjoy that about being self-employed.
yeah, I agree with you. Yep. I know. To be self-employed in the same time means you should work really hard.
You should,
Like,
but also don't forget to enjoy the benefits of it too.
right, right. You're still free. You still don't
Yes.
have any supervisors. You still don't have any office. You still don't have any
Well,
double restrictions.
I do have my wife. She's my supervisor, so she keeps me in line.
Yeah, but it's great combination, right?
Oh
To
yes,
be supervised by your spouse. It's great. We
yes.
all need to be accountable
It's a
to
huge part of the
someone.
business. Yeah.
I agree with you. Oh, let's talk a little bit about it a little later. So, for those who does not know who is Lee Nugent, could you please introduce yourself a little bit more than I've done it?
Yes. Well, like you said correctly, and thank you. Some people butcher my name, but my name is Lee Nugent. I started investing in 2015. My wife and I started with $6,000, and from that we really leveraged it into a couple properties, and then we leveraged equity in the properties to build lines of credit, which allowed us to do more deals. So then we started just buying more properties. Through that, we started not only the rental strategy, but then we saw opportunities to flip houses. So then we started flipping
Hmm.
houses, and then I started wholesaling, and then I got my real estate license and started selling properties. So over the past 10 years, I've done north of 700 transactions in real estate,
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah, it seems like a lot when you're looking back, but when you're in the throes of it, it's just another day. Uh, and then in 2020, I did my first private money loan, and that went
Mm.
really. And then a few years later, the demand for capital that was coming in, the requests were more than I could service. So in 2024, last year, I actually launched a hard money lending fund, and I'm currently in my capital
Mm.
raise for that. So it's a $10 million fund, and it's a 506c. So I'm raising capital from accredited investors at this time.
Mm. Oh my gosh, I love all this story. For me, it sounds like most of investors who jumped into real estate, this is the like path of the dream. All people want to own properties, to sell them, and then to start funds, to be lender.
Yeah. Looking back, it really does seem like I'm living somebody else's life. Yeah, I'm not trying to take away from that. But also, it really came down to just being able to see the opportunity and seize the opportunity. One thing that I believe in, Alina, is the saying, luck is when opportunity meets preparedness. And a lot of that means that I studied, I researched, and then I took action. And along that, it wasn't perfect action by any means. I have made my mistakes. And I'm happy to share that. I'm an open book about the mistakes I've made. Uh, but I still take action. I think that's a huge part of it.
Yeah, and yeah, I agree with you. And even to make mistake, this is a huge beneficial part of the real estate investment, right?
Absolutely. Failing forward is the way to do things. Well, at least it's the way I've done things, I should say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you have very interesting experience. You know how to buy, how to apply for loans, and now you know how to approve these loans or decline these loans. So I would like your experience and your opinion and your anything you would like to share with us, uh, something to borrowers, to real estate investors. We usually don't realize, we usually don't count when we start building relationship with lenders, especially private money lenders. We will talk about hard money lending a little later. I would like you to open up a little bit secrets of private lending. So
Yeah.
what you as an lender right now would like to share with people who needs lenders?
I would say go into rooms and go to your local RIAs, go to your meetups, and look for the people who might feel or seem like they're a little out of place. If you're looking for private money lenders, generally the quiet people in the room are going to have some kind of value to contribute. Because think of it like this: your newer people, they're going to be there, they're going to be excited, they're going to have all the questions. But the people there
Mhm.
sitting back, they're just watching the content, they're watching the people, they're saying, okay, great. And strike up a conversation with those people because more often than not, I've found those people to have capital
Mm,
and have money to be
mm,
able to lend. Now, a lot of people don't understand that you probably know at least five private money lenders right now just by finding people that aren't happy with their stock performance or their 401k performance, because you can actually be a private money lender using your 401k. It's called the self directed IRA. You can
yep.
roll over all or proceeds, or a portion, I should say, of somebody's 401k, and they can lend that to you. One of the great things about that, Elena, is if somebody has a Roth IRA or Roth 401k, they can roll that over to self directed. And whenever they lend that money out to you, that money that they receive, if they do it correctly, is actually brought back
Mhm.
in tax free. So the money that they make on their interest is pure profit that doesn't get taxed. And there are so many ways to make that happen. But also, sometimes you go to these meetings, you have people that have $100,000, $200,000 in equity in their property, and they just don't understand yet how they can apply that leverage, how that they can get a HELOC. Or one of the things that we did that made it available for my wife and I to become private money lenders, because again, we truly started with $6,000. This isn't just some kind of web hook to bring you into a sales funnel, right? We started with $6,000. I mean, I've got scars on my hands from turning the screwdrivers, swinging the hammers,
Oh,
working on
wow.
our properties until I could afford to hire contractors. So we really did start it from the bottom there. That being said, once we started to understand the power of leverage, that's when it got powerful.
Mhm.
For example, and I'll go and I'll try to be brief. So forgive me if I speak too much. But our first property was a duplex that the owner was asking $93,000 for. We bought it for $67,000, and it appraised for $104,000. The bank gave us 100% financing on that property because it was such great equity in the deal.
Mhm.
Second property, they wanted 45,000. We got it for 35. It appraised for 53. Another deal that we didn't have to bring money into the deal to get the financing. Then the rules changed. So with that, I had to find that leverage point. And sadly, my mother had passed away in 2014, and I had inherited 20 acres. My sister had inherited 20 acres, and it was just old family land that nobody ever did anything with. It's low-lying flood zone with woods. That's it.
Mhm.
But I went to my bank and I said, "Hey, could I possibly use this to secure a line of credit because the rules had changed and now they had to have at least 20% into the deal, what they call loan to cost. Didn't matter what value there was, they wanted you to bring 20% skin in the game. And
Mhm.
I'd asked my banker, could I use a line of credit and then purchase cash whenever I buy these properties because I'm paying sub $100,000 for these properties. Can I buy a property and then refinance it with you, and then I could get
Mhm.
80% loan to value because now I own the property, right? So they think about it and then they run it by and they said, yeah, all right, you can. And once I realized that, that was the power of leverage for me. And it allowed us to really catapult ourselves forward because the next deal, and this was not even 4 months later, Elena, the next deal, my realtor had brought me a sixplex. In that sixplex, the seller
Mm.
wanted $300,000 for it. And I ran the numbers, looked at it, and I think we paid 224. I think 224 was where we landed. And I kept it for a couple of years, and we acquired other properties during that time using the line of credit. Because when we
Mhm.
bought that property, it appraised for 300 and I want to say like $310,000. So at this point, I went over to another bank. I rolled these other properties and that one and my land all together. And I remember this to the day. My note every month was $2,301.20, and I made that check every month. But I ended up having a little over 100 and I want to say $150,000 in a line of credit set aside from that package because I didn't
Mhm.
finance equity. I kept it over there and I would draw it down when we have a deal and then I would buy cash, refinance, put the money back. And I would just rinse and repeat. That's how we built our portfolio. But over the years, we did a lot of high equity negotiations to where I did the value add. If it needed a lot of work, great. If it needed tenants, great. If it wasn't a performing property and I could go in there and I could stabilize it and I could make it a good property, I did. And 2 years later, I sold that sixplex for $300,000. We paid off the first duplex that I had mentioned. And then we still had the note, right? So I was still paying $2,301.20 a month for that property. But there was only one property left to be paid for. And that was about $35,000 worth of debt on that other duplex. So let me just go ahead and speed that up for you. Over the next year, I kept paying that same amount. And now we had four doors paid for outright. Well, what did I do? I went back to the bank and I recollateralized. I said, all right, I don't want to take a note. I don't want to finance this, but I would, now that we've got a relationship, I would like a line of credit for all this equity. And that's how we started to build that snowball, all from $6,000. And this is a strategy that I tell people it takes work. You have to get off your you have to get off your tail. I'm trying to not cuss as much on podcasts and shows, so I apologize. But you have to get up and you have to put in the work. That's my secret sauce. That is the magic trick that I've got is that I just took action and I got creative and I got around people that saw things differently, which inspired me to see
Mhm.
things differently. And that's
Mhm.
ultimately where we built up to becoming a private money lender. Was then we had access to capital. And have I even answered your question yet? I apologize.
Oh, you answered many. No, no, don't apologize,
Okay.
please. You're here to share your experience. You do great. You do absolutely awesome. Please don't apologize. Really, it's
Okay. Well, I just don't want to ramble
people.
and you fall asleep on me.
No, 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 no. It's no way to follow up on you because you share so
Okay.
much great information. Absolutely, you actually answered a couple of questions. I had to answer you, but it's so cool, so cool.
Okay.
Actually, I wanted to ask you to break down a little bit how people can leverage their equity on their properties. So, if
Yeah.
someone, for example, owns their primary residence property, right, and they don't have cash, but they heard from somehow, somewhere they can leverage their equity on their property to start investing. Could you please help us and to explain us how it works?
All right. I'm happy to. And before I dive into this part, let me just go ahead and say this because I say it on every seminar or everything else that I do. This is not legal or
Mhm.
tax advice. This is for entertainment purposes only, right? So I'm not a CPA, I'm not an attorney. So what I'm about to share, don't take it as legal or tax advice. That being said,
Absolutely.
uh, I can only share with you what I put into practice myself because I don't teach theory, I
Please.
just teach what I do. So let's say that I own my property outright. Now I could go and I could get a HELOC. Here's a couple challenges with that. Number one, whenever I get charged the 8%, 7, 6, whatever the bank charges me on the interest, whenever it's in my
Mhm.
personal name and it's a personal HELOC, I can't deduct that interest that I pay the bank. So that's a hard cost, right? Now, here's one
Mhm.
of the challenges or one of the things that you could think of differently. Depending on the situation that you're in, if you're really going to put that to work and you're willing to give up that line, or I'm sorry, that homestead exemption that you might be enjoying while it's in your personal name, if you possibly roll it over to an LLC and you get a secured line of credit from that, now what are you operating? You're operating a business, right? Or at least in my opinion, I'm
Mhm.
operating a business. I've got to keep this over here in my perspective. So with that, whenever I pay the bank their 7 or 8% interest, I get to give this over to my bookkeeper and say, hey, look, I've been paying this. This is a business expense. So instead of having to book all of that 12, 13, well, actually for what I charge annualized, I'm between 18 and 22% of my loans right now. So
Mhm.
whenever I'm making all that money and I'm bringing that back in and I'm paying my bank 8%, I don't have to book that other 8% as income. That's an expense for being able to write that off. So that's where I would look at if I was to tap into my home equity line of credit is really
Mhm.
understand that maybe eating that over into an LLC, if you own it outright, and giving up the homestead exemption so that now you can truly write that expense off. Again, check with your tax professional before you do that. But that's what I would do to really access that capital and maximize the cash flow from it to be able to really write off those other expenses that you might not be able to when it's in your personal
Perfect. Thank you so much, Lee. Great
name.
suggestion. So let's pretend someone has dream to start investing, but they don't want to touch their house. I mean, equity. Okay. In this case, they will need private lenders or hard money lenders. For example, people who wants to do fix and flip.
Those are my type of
What
people.
kind of
That's yeah.
great?
That's the loan that I like to do.
Yeah,
Um,
and I have less experience than you and much less experience. But even me, I see the market is changing, and the type of loans are coming, different type, interest rates changing. So I believe you know current situation. So what would you suggest to people who want to start doing fix and flips? What kind of loans do they need? What do they have to pay attention on?
yeah. Well, those are some great questions. And I'm going to try to compartmentalize the questions into a number of things and hopefully share my perspective so that if anybody that's watching this wants to borrow money and wonders why they're hearing no more than they're hearing yes, they'll understand more about that. Number one, I also flip houses. All right. So not only am I lending the money, but I lend the money or I flip houses as well. So we are looking at the market, we're watching the market. And what I want are investors to be successful. And I mean that for every investor. I want my borrowers to be successful. I want you to make a good loan so that you can go and put out a good product. You can sell that and you can make a good profit. And then I want to be successful because I want to take that money that you're paying me in that interest and the points. And I want to be able to go over here to my investors, my capital investors in my fund
Mhm.
and share with them those double digit returns that I work to get. So for all of that to be successful, I have to help these. Well, I don't have to. I get to help investors be successful. And sometimes that's
Mhm.
by taking a more consultative approach to their loan request. Because I'm sure that you've been to a restaurant before and you see all these great things on the menu and you're so hungry and you're like, yes, oh, I'm going to eat like royalty tonight. But then by the time you have a little bread, you have your appetizer, you have a little bit of your entree, now you're full and then you don't have room for dessert, right? So your eyes, there's a saying, your eyes are bigger than your stomach. And sometimes what happens is
I like it.
first time
Because it's true.
investors, their eyes are bigger than their stomach. They don't know what they can't handle yet. All right. So that's where I kind of, say, well, let's slow it down a little, pup. Let's work through this. And I help them understand how to read their market because all markets across the country are not the same. Some are still great sellers markets, some heavy buyers markets. And being able to interpret the data is what's going to make these investors successful. So not only do I teach them, hey, look, go over here, talk to your realtor, have them pull this comp, this comp, this comp. These metrics are what I want you to see. And a lot of those times, I want to see, not only, well, I only want to see what's sold. I don't care what's active, except for the fact of, all right, how nice are you going to need to make your property to make it where everybody else is asking, right? So if you can do that and you can beat what other people are asking for in the market, great. You're delivering a better product. So yours is going to stand out about above the rest, and you should have a little bit lower days on market. So that's one component. Then
Mhm.
you want to look and see what's sold, because it doesn't matter what people are asking for. If people are asking for $1 million, yet the same homes that they're saying that they want $1 million for are only selling for 200, I can just about promise you, your house is not going to sell for $1 million, not until some drastic changes happen. That being said, we're going to set realistic expectations for the ARV, right? Your after repair value
Mhm.
has to be realistic. And then also, we want to make sure that we time your rehab, because if your rehab drags out and drags out and drags out, or God forbid, you go over here and you overpay the contractor and they don't show up, and now you're just pockets out.
Mhm.
What's that do? Right? It puts you in a bad situation, puts me in a bad situation. This is off my investors. They don't want to give me money to lend anymore. And then I can't lend money out anymore. So it's this whole ripple effect that I have to watch out for and I have to be protective of. So I also caution my investors whenever they flip. Yes, I will provide up to 80% of the purchase price of your property. I will also provide
Mhm.
up to 100% of the rehab of your property.
Mhm.
But keep in mind that that 100% rehab does not include me giving it to you all at once at closing. Because I'm sure you can understand, Elena, that some people, if they had that, they don't have the discipline. They're going to take that and they're going to go on a cruise. They're going to go buy that vehicle that they always wanted. And then they're going to come back and think, well, you know what? Yeah, so I just spent $100,000 and I have $15,000 left. Slap some paint on it. It'll sell. It will not. Not, no, it will not. Let me just go ahead and tell you, don't do stupid shit. It's quite simple, but I understand that it has to be said to people. So, all that to say, once we do this, you're going to get a closing, or at closing, you're going to get a check for your first draw. That's going to get your contractor out there. Okay, that's going to do your demo, your rough carpentry, and get them on the job site. Now, then we're going to do a second draw, and that's going to be your paint and
Mhm.
flooring draw, typically, right? So we'll have the scope of work drawn up, and we'll have a schedule going out there, and we'll have everything lined out to how this goes. Because guess what? It's not just because my investors over here are expecting the great return. I don't want to be in the business of owning your real estate. I want you to be successful and go sell it. So we have all of this
Mhm.
process built out so that you're successful in what you do. And yeah, so that's what I would tell a first time flipper. Now I know you're probably, if you're watching this, you're probably listening and saying, well, yeah, that's great, but where do I get the 20% that you said I have to have? Well, let's be clear, 20%
Yep.
plus the points are upfront, right? Now, until we've developed a relationship, I will not do 100% funding. I've got a few investors that I do 100% for because number one, we've done over 10 deals in a year. They've done slam
Mhm.
dunk deals. They bring high equity negotiations, or their deals are high equity negotiations. So
Mhm.
they've kind of unlocked it. It's kind of like an achievement in a video game, like ding, you win. Now, a newer investor, they can go and they can find a capital partner. All right. That capital
Mhm.
partner could be, a friend, colleagues from work, family member. And what they would do is they would kind of get them to bring that 20% over for their fund, or for the funding plus the points. And then they would, of
Mhm.
course, negotiate some equity split on that. But that is
Mhm.
how a lot of investors get started, with little money out of pocket. And I know I just ruined some guru's $10,000 or $20,000 course. I'm sorry if that pisses you off that I just gave that information out and you tried to sell it. But it's nothing that people can't learn at a local library or RIA meeting. Okay.
Yep.
So I would say that's
Experience.
how you get started. Okay. If you're a first time investor, source the 20 plus the points. Make sure it's a good deal, because if you don't, trust me, when you bring it over to me and I look at it, I'm going to critique it. We're going to do a red team analysis. And if it holds water, then great. You probably have a decent deal. And if not, it's okay.
Mhm.
You're in due diligence period, or you should be. So cancel your contract or renegotiate it, and then go find a good deal. Those deals, we're in a lot of markets right now to where sellers are reluctantly starting to agree that the good times are not good right now. And we're starting to see a little bit more motivation coming from them. So I would say, get out there, and this is the time to really start headhunting for those deals.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lee, for such a great advice. And you just mentioned RV. I would like to ask you, what is the secret to identify, to calculate RV, the most conservative, the best way to make sure you provided to lender this information correctly? Because not only investors, not only, people, not only borrowers, they calculate RV, but lenders, they calculate RV as well. And I really believe if we provide wrong numbers, it can destroy somehow the level of credibility in front of lender, correct? So RV
Oh,
is really
absolutely.
important number. It's really important
Yeah.
number we should provide to you guys, to lenders. Could you please teach us a little bit, guide us a little bit, how
Yeah.
to work with this number, RV?
So to calculate your ARV, I want you to understand there's two different aspects of how you get this. Number one,
Mhm.
you might go and look on the market and see what's selling for in the area, what people are asking for. And you can say, okay, well, everybody's asking for $500 a square foot. Great, we're going to go with that. Now, that's where you're going to go into what's called speculation. Myself, I try not
Mhm.
to be a speculator. I try to be an investor. Investing is looking at what has sold in that area. So that sold data tells you that is what people are paying, not what people are asking. This is true historic data that has sold, and we know that people have paid this amount. So if you're asking
Mhm.
500, but you're seeing $200 a square foot, I, the lender, am going to calculate on what has sold. I'm going to be looking at the $200 a square foot to calculate my ARV. So if you come to me and you've got this pie in the sky scenario, and you're telling me that it's going to be this great slam dunk deal and all this other stuff, and it's easy money. First off, I'm going to raise a couple red flags there and just say no, let's dive in. But if you really want to impress your lender, go with conservative estimates, because I would rather, and I tell my investors this all the time, I would rather under promise and over deliver for you than to sit here and give you something that I can't deliver on or struggle to deliver on, and now you think less of me. So I would encourage any investor, if you're getting started in this, especially until you have a lot of confidence and history, to go out there and be extremely conservative, because a lender will appreciate that you're coming in saying, hey, look, I've got these five comps. All five comps are showing it range between 175 to $200 a square foot. We're going to probably be in line with that. And that lender might even then go with an AVM model instead of ordering a full on appraisal. So there's different things that could even be a cost savings for you whenever you bring the right numbers. However, I've had people come to me and argue, well, no, it's going to be worth this. I said, okay, well, great. If you want to pay for an appraisal, we'll call an independent appraiser, we'll send them out, and we'll see what their number
Mhm.
is. Give me your scope of work. And I've never had, and I'm not saying this because I'm just know it all, but I've never had one come
Mm.
back when somebody had those pie in the sky numbers. Never had one come back to where it was just like, oh, I was wrong. No. Whenever you generally do that, you have to be conservative.
Mm. So it actually could be really good advice for people who just started to make sure their numbers are correct. Maybe this is great to hire private appraisal.
Yeah. Because
Yep,
here's
could
one of
be.
the things, Elena. If somebody comes to me and they hope that they get $200 a square foot, but they bring me comps and everything else that shows $150 a square foot, and we
Mhm.
go and we write the loan on $150 a square foot, and they're getting everything done, everything still works out, and then they sell for $200 a square foot. Guess what? They win, and so do I, because we were still conservative, right? So they got all that extra. In Louisiana, where I'm from, we call that land yap, a little something extra. So you're able to get
Mm.
that. It's not like you get penalized for doing better than what we anticipate. We just have to set
Mhm.
expectations.
Cool. Oh, by the way, Lee, how is Louisiana market right now? Is it hot?
Well, I've got a flip on the market right now, and we're actually in the middle of refinancing a group of properties. So we're going to be getting back into the hunt, hopefully in the next 2 weeks to 3 weeks. when that finalizes because we're rolling up another line of credit to give us more access to capital. So I
Mm,
like the Louisiana market. I don't know. It's just I like it. It's landlord friendly. Our rentals are good. We're still finding properties around the 2% rule. So which means that our typical all in cost is going to be about $60,000, and then we're going to rent it out typically on Section 8,
mhm,
something like that, for $1,200 to $1,300 a month. So we're able to get
mm,
about 2% a month back on our money.
mm.
And
So
the great thing
it's
about
fast
it that I
growing
love.
market.
Oh yeah,
Mhm,
and the thing that I really love about it is that typically that property will appraise north of $100,000, and the bank would finance 80% of that, right? So if I'm only taking my 60 back in, and I'm leaving that other 20, what do I get to do in the next 10 deals if they average out like that? Now I get to roll up another $200,000 line. So that's what I like about Louisiana. And here in Florida, where I'm at right now, you'll spend about $500,000 and you'll get 3,500 a month in rent if you're lucky. We're actually tracking
mhm,
downwards. We've had some compression where we're about 3,000 a month for 500,000 spent.
mm,
So instead of a
mm.
0.75, you're actually at a 0.6.
And plus good appreciation every year. I
The
guess so.
appreciation would be nice, but we haven't really seen too much of that with the interest rates right now. That's really put a lot of pressure on
Yeah,
the appreciation.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree. Cool, interesting. Let's come back a little bit to your lending part.
Yeah.
So, do you do lending for business?
So I have done some lending for business in equity plays. For example,
Mm.
I've had people come to me and they just need some operating capital. Well, I
Mhm,
don't do unsecured loans. I don't do really second position loans or anything like that. I'm a senior debt lender, which
mhm,
means that, and there are people out there that do second position, mezzanine debt, tertiary lending, and everything else. But I try to
mhm,
stay senior on the debt. I want to be first paid back. And I've had people come to me that need, some capital, 50, $100,000 to get receivables squared away or anything else.
mhm,
And I've had a couple people where I would extend them a line of credit off of my lines of credit, but essentially I'm charging the arbitrage, right? So if I'm paying my bank 8, then I get a floating 4% spread. That 4% spread, but I also get some equity in their company. So that'll
mhm.
that's been good. I've probably should look at focusing more into that. But really, I just like to have my money in, out instead of a revolving line. I want to use that for other projects.
Mhm. Yeah, it makes sense. Yep, it makes sense.
I don't like to keep it
Let's talk a
long.
little bit about refinance. Sorry, say again, please.
I don't like to keep my money locked up too long because for me, it's about velocity of money. My typical loan can go 6 months to a year for a fix and flip.
Mhm,
And with that, like I said, I annualize out at like 18% because if I'm charging 12% APR and I charge 3 points or 5 points
mhm,
for the loan if it's a smaller amount, then in 6 months, I want that money back so I can do another loan. And that's what allows me to
mhm.
take that same capital, fold it twice, and annualize out at about 18 to 22%.
Yep, it makes sense. It makes
Yeah.
sense. Lee, do you do refinance? Do DSCR loan, for example, as a hard money lender?
Yeah. So just in the spirit of transparency, I do that. However, I broker that out. See, there's two types of lenders that people don't seem to always understand. I don't have infinite money. That'd be nice. But I am what we call a balance sheet lender on the fix and flips. All right. That means that I
Mhm,
keep those notes on my books. I don't go and sell those out or anything else. And then I could get table funding. Table funding is when another company provides the money for the loan and everything else, right? And I'm just kind of the face. And people think that it's me, but it's really somebody else's money, and then the loan gets sold, after the fact. Well, that's all well and good. I mean, I like to be transparent with people when we do business. So the other thing is I will broker those DSCR loans out, those refinances, the cash out refis. I'll actually send those out to some of the partners that I work with who have better and more favorable rates. And then of course it's between a point and a half is kind of my broker fee for that.
Mhm. Oh, okay. Because I wanted to ask you next about co-living model, about part split model. It's something new for lenders, and I know not all lenders are familiar. They still feel not confident lending on co-living properties. But you do something for co-living investors?
Well, so I do. However, it's got to be underwritten, and I tell people just because whenever I do these things, I'm still so conservative because there's a lot of risk involved, right? And the
Yeah.
co-living space, while I love the concept of pad split, we're looking at putting a couple of our rentals on pad split. I still underwrite it as a one DSCR, right? So it has to be
Mhm.
a globalization rate of one, which means that the monthly payment has to cover, or the rent has to cover the monthly payment and expenses, right? So if
Mhm.
I treat it like just a standard long-term rental DSCR, and then they take it and they flip it over to a co space, they only have upside. Good for them. But I just prefer to keep it underwritten as the long term because it's all about being able to pivot back to that original strategy. Because
Mhm.
my concern is if I underwrite you as an Airbnb or I underwrite you as a co living, and then the HOA or the county comes in and they change that
Mhm.
rule, you can't. Now that puts you, the borrower, in a bad position. I, the lender, I've underwritten my deal conservatively enough. I can just take the property if you default. However, I would rather not do that. So what I would want to do is just underwrite it
Yep.
as if it was a long-term
Mhm. Mm. Interesting. Yeah, I agree. I just know how difficult to find deal that cash flowing with long-term strategy. It's extremely
It,
difficult.
it really is. And with that, there are lenders that I know that do work with that. It's just for my lending purposes, I don't. However, I'm more than happy to make connections for people.
Mm. Perfect. Actually, Lee, personally, me, I'll come back to you because co-living plus split is my strategy.
Yeah,
I'm checking right now lots of properties in several states. Yep, cool.
happy to talk to you about it.
Perfect. I'll come back to you for sure. But anyway, it's very smart to make sure borrower has several exit strategies. But you know what makes me happy, for example, right now, when I'm speaking with lenders, I see more and more people, I mean, lenders ready to be flexible. They understand market is changing. Reality is not like it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, right? Maybe 10
Yeah.
years ago, most of the properties were cash flowing with long-term rental. Absolutely. Oh, hi, Chris. Perfect. Thank you so much. We have Chris James, my business partner, right now here on this podcast, and his
Hey,
comment
Chris.
is, "I would love to connect. Lee. Great podcast, Elena. Thank you so much, Chris. Great. Yeah, I'm really happy to bring value to people, and absolutely, I'm happy if you guys will can do business together. It's awesome. This is a goal. This is the goal. Thank you so much, Lee, for all this information.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
We probably have 5 minutes left. I have still a couple questions, and people who watching us right now, if you have questions, please feel free ask Lee. You see, he is extremely knowledgeable. Please come to our chat, drop your questions, and make sure you will get all information you need. Again, thank you so much, Lee, for all information. It's extremely valuable.
Well, thank you for having me.
Perfect. So maybe a couple last questions. So what are your plans as a lender right now? What do you want to focus on?
Yeah. So my plans as lender right now are to continue having conversations with accredited investors. Oftentimes,
Mhm.
people don't necessarily know if they're accredited investors or not, and that really comes down to net worth or income, right? So the SEC has different definitions of that. The reason why I say that is because I can only speak with accredited investors for my fund, and I'm looking to get about 2 million more raised so that I can do a capital call before the end of the quarter and deploy that. I've got loans waiting on deck to deploy, so need to raise the capital. So that's what my lending business is focused on right now, is really just having those conversations. And then also developing more and more networking relationships with people that can, help raise capital for deals because one of the things that we're going to be doing is shifting into the multifamily, into some more commercial space as this $2.7 trillion in debt is about to start hitting books. So once that happens, I think that we're going to see a lot of great opportunities. So I'm looking to, kind of build that team of investors that can source the deals, that we can raise the capital, that we can put operators in place, and we can make a lot of money for our limited partners, but also make a lot of money for our teams.
Collaboration is the point. Cool. Very cool.
I've
So
learned
you
that if you
tell
want to
me,
go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And it took me the
oh
better
my
part of
God.
10 years to really adopt that.
Yeah, it's so true, so true. I absolutely disagree about fast. If you're alone, you never will go fast. Especially in real estate, zero chance. Really, zero chance. You cannot cover everything. You cannot have, you, it's really zero chance you have all these strengths, right? An analytical part, and communicational part, and numbers and underwriting. There's really zero chance you can cover everything. You really
Yeah.
need people. Even if you
Yeah. I
do,
tell people I'm a specialized generalist.
yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, team building and partnership is one of my favorite topic, and I'm so
It's
happy to
crucial.
have conversation about this. Thank you so much, Victoria. We have question from Victoria in our chat. Do you lead do you do JV with investors, or you only do lending?
I do. It's on a very selective basis. So with that, it really depends on what's being asked of me, right? Because I never want to just blindly commit and overcommit myself. But if somebody brings a deal and they're like, "Hey, look, would you JV with me? I want to learn how to wholesale," and I'm like, "All right, fantastic. Do this, this, and this. I have a free copy of my book on my website. Go there, read that, and then once you've taken that action, let's talk about the next steps." Because I do have a lot of demands on my schedule, and with that, I have to make sure to protect that schedule, which means that casual people that aren't committed to it, I can't just give everybody access. So there are certain things that I do ask of people first, like show me what you've done. Let's see where you're looking to go and see if we even align. Because number one, if we're not in alignment, I'm either going to hinder you or you'll hinder me. And we just need to identify that so that we can leave the door open for maybe future collaboration whenever we're not really a fit just yet. So, Victoria, I hope I answered your question in the roundabout way of saying it depends. I know that's the classic investor answer of any question is it depends. However, yes, I do have some people that I JV with. Sometimes I provide capital. Sometimes I just provide contacts and oversight. So it just really depends on what you're looking for.
Perfect. Yeah, and actually, Lee, this answer, it depends. Nobody likes this answer, but reality is really it depends. It really
It really is.
depends, right? But what is positive is in this answer. If you say it depends, it means really you do. If you
Yeah.
would not do, you would say, no, I don't do it.
Yeah.
Correct? So
Exactly.
Victoria answer is yes, but it depends.
Yes. Yes, and yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much, Lee. Supposed to hear from me very soon, because I believe I have a couple ideas to share with you and to discuss with you. And people, please feel free to reach out to Lee directly. I will post Lee's link to his Facebook under this video. And for those who will watch our podcast later, recording, please feel free reach out to Lee. You see, he knows a lot, and he can a lot. I feel it. So if you
And
need
I'll
help,
actually
please,
drop the link to my website if you'd like.
please share with me. I will post there. Yeah, I will post. Thank you so much, Lee. It was awesome. 45 minutes of beautiful podcast, lots of golden nuggets, and I'm happy people ask their questions, and it's great. It's great to see this interaction.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much again, and have a good night. Thank you. Thank you.
You too.
Bye, Lee. Thanks. Guys, thank you so much for being today with us. It was really, really cool podcast. Gosh, when I started several months ago, I never even had the idea how cool it is to host podcast, how fun it can be, how much you can learn from your guest. And this guest, Lee, was great example of golden nuggets and experience, and how happily he shared this with all of us. Thank you so much for being today with me. It's Elena Bartash, your real estate investor. If you are a lender, private money lender, hard money lender, I'm always happy to extend my network. Please feel free to reach out to me. I would be happy to get to know you and about your business. And Lee, he was great guest. If you need help with lending, hard money lending, private lending, or you need any type of advice, please feel free to reach out to him. Thank you so much, guys. Again, have a wonderful evening and have a good night. Bye-bye.